Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome back to Coffee Explained. My name's Rob, and today we're going to look at the Timemore S3. Timemore as a brand have been around for a few years now. They released the C2 back in 2020 and the Black Mirror scales as well. There really wasn't anything like it at the time. Had the things like the Hario Mini Mill, and there just wasn't anything in the budget hand grinder space that would really give good quality coffee for a great price. Okay, now fast forward to 2024, there's quite a few other brands that offer the same sort of value as Timemore. So it's King Grinder, you've got espresso, and they also follow the sort of same structure as Timemore. So they have the budget line, mid-tier line, and then the flagship or top tier as well. So I picked up the Timemore S3 about 4 or 5 months ago, back in February, so I had plenty of time to get to know this grinder so I can give a good review of how I think it performs and whether I think it's really good value for money. Okay, so with that, let's get on to the unboxing. If you've owned other Timemore grinders, this will be a very familiar experience. Inside the box, we have the grinder itself, the foldable crank arm, an instruction manual, a cleaning brush, and a travel pouch. The grinder has a sleek, minimalist design with an aluminium body and a knurled grip, which not only looks great, but feels sturdy and comfortable in the hand. The Timemore S3 features 42mm S2C, which stands for spike to cut burrs. Now these burrs will spike the coffee bean before it's ground, which will reduce fines and give you a better grind distribution. Another awesome feature of the Timemore S3, which is brand spanking new for this design, adjustment dial on the top of the grinder. So listen to this. Gone are the days of those awful internal grind adjustments which were just a pain in the arse. So another standout feature of the S3 is the dual bearing setup. Now these are really cool actually. They look kind of like skateboarding when they were a kid, and they had Bones red skateboard bearings because these look just like it. But anyway, these basically, the dual bearing system ensures that the shaft is perfectly aligned so that there's a reduced wobble when you're grinding. Helps to get a more uniformed grind basically. Let's talk about the performance of the S3. Now, in my performance over the last few months, I've found that I've been mainly using it for filter. On the adjustment scale, you'll see on here that it says on there that you can grind it all the way up to espresso. If I'm honest, I don't believe that is true. Now I'll show you why. On here, let's go back to the grinds. It says 0 to 1 for espresso. Every other grinder I've ever owned, when you set the grinder to 0, the burrs don't move. So you can see on here it's set to 0. You can see the grinder still moves. That's the first problem. The second problem is, okay, well, most other grinders, you set the 0 point from the internal dial. You cannot do this with this grinder because inside this metal dial, it's milled. So it is milled to a point. Once you hit that point, like you are now, it's locked in place. I cannot turn that anymore. The inner and outer burr are flush. I haven't actually tried to grind for espresso with this grinder, but I've seen other reviewers mention that when they get to 0, the shots were running really fast and they couldn't grind any finer. So in my experience, I would not buy this grinder for espresso. But saying that, the grinding experience for filter coffee is incredible. So I had the C2 and the C3 before this grinder, and it was a huge upgrade. So the thing you'll notice the most with this grinder is you get a lot more clarity, a lot less fines, sweeter cup, and the other thing is it grinds much faster because the handle is a lot bigger and the burrs are bigger as well. So I think in the C2, I think they're 38mm. They might be 38 or 40mm, whereas these are 42, so they're a bigger burr as well. I mainly use this grinder for Araya and AeroPress. To be honest, I rarely deviate away from number 3 on the adjustment dial for those brew methods. I maybe go a little bit finer for AeroPress, but I probably would stick around the 3 to maybe 5 maximum for Araya. On the adjustment dial, it says 5 to 8 for pour over. I can kind of get on with. You'll get a much coarser grind at those settings. But for me, I found that I stick around 3 to 5, depending on the style of coffee it is. So we've gone through most of the positives with this grinder, with that only little touch on the espresso grinding. But the only other gripe or small negative that I have with this grinder is just the weight. So the grinder weighs in at about 800 grams. It's very heavy. It's also quite large. So if I get the Q Air, for instance, you can see side by side. So the Q Air is probably half the size and it's also half the weight. So this comes in at about 360. That's with the handle as well. So for portability, I'd say this probably isn't the most portable, but if you're willing to sacrifice portability, it's a better overall user experience. Mainly because you've got that adjustment dial on the outside. You've got the bigger burrs, which are the spike to cut burrs as well. Plus the foldable handle, it does make it slightly smaller. Overall, this isn't aimed towards being a travel friendly grinder. This is aimed towards a grinder you'd probably keep at home, and then you'd use something like the Q Air if you went camping or something like that. Okay, so what's the verdict on the Timemore S3 hand grinder? For me, it's a premium feeling hand grinder that delivers very, very good consistent grind size for filter coffee. It's quite large, but to be honest, it makes it feel more premium, and it's definitely a great buy if you're looking for a mid-tier hand grinder in this price range. Others that are really good in the space as well, like the ZP6 from espresso and the Kin Grinder K6, which are also well worth a look, but I do feel the Timemore S3 holds its own within this category. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, which is your favorite. And if you did enjoy this review, please press the like button and subscribe if you like coffee related content, gear, how to, all that good stuff. Thanks again for watching. I've been Rob. This is Coffee Explained. Happy brewing.